Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by Jono Poon. He is the co-founder of Limit Break Lifestyle and someone I have known for many, many years now. How are you doing, Jono?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, bro.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being on the show. I'm looking forward to picking your brains and seeing what you have to say because I know you are always value dropping. That is your thing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good man. So first things first, let's jump straight into it. What do you guys do? What does Limit Break Lifestyle do, and what do you do, and how do you represent yourself?
Well, Limit Break Lifestyle is about high level inner leadership. And what we do is we help people with the super consciousness. Again, that goes with habits, values, and belief systems. We go into the deep depths of what triggers your human behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So why you do what you do, why you behave the way you do, why the way you react the way you do. Where does it all come from? Your thoughts and feelings. All of those all root down to your childhood. But what stories did you create when you was in that childhood, in that moment? And throughout your life, you will live out that story. So the fears that you have, the anger that you have, the depression that you have, they're all stories that you create from when you're a child. And we go into the deep depths of basically rooting them out with the clients and basically breaking out of that story.
Limit break that lifestyle.
It is.
How long have you guys been going?
We've going for about 2 years now.
Yeah. And for you, because there's been, we're in very similar fields. How have you guys stayed fresh? How have you guys made sure that you are staying hot on the topics of mindset, change, belief work, all that kind of stuff?
Well, we go into alchemy. So these are all very historic and scientifically proven methods. There's no need to always go into the fresh stuff. When there's something new, you don't just always jump onto it. You could always go back into history, or you could neuroscience if you would stay fresh.
Yeah,
I mean, that really breaks down and goes deep depths of science. But for what we need to do as human beings in our day-to-day life, in high performance, in business, we don't really need to go into neuroscience level. We should keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Best way to be.
Because when you overcomplicate it, you just get overwhelmed, and you don't do half the stuff you do anyway. If you do that kind of level, but if you're really into the nitty gritties of research and science, yes, you can go into that, but it's not required. It's not needed.
Yeah, exactly. Why is it, do you think, that most people know the story that they're telling themselves, but they don't change that story unless often something has to happen for that story to change?
Because everyone's scared of change.
They're
afraid to go into the truth. And what I mean is the deep, dark secrets that we keep, that we hide, that we don't talk about. Again, this also goes into mental health. As men, we don't talk about our struggles, our challenges, how we feel, right? Because a lot of our parents has probably told us from when we're growing up as childhood, be a man, don't cry, man can't cry, or man don't cry, whatever it is. And we go through that story and we just live it out to the point where we're so fearful of changing. We're so fearful of opening up because we don't want to be vulnerable, right?
For sure.
Men should be strong.
But have you seen a shift in the recent years when, mental health especially has been much more on the forefront of media and news, especially like male mental health as well? The amount of suicides and how mental health affects males. Have you seen a shift in, I guess the word is openness, to get people to start talking about their stuff, right? Their baggage and those stories that are sort of holding them back?
Yeah, it's definitely has been a shift. I guess it's probably opening up more when celebrities are having those suicides and those are causing the news to talk about it. And again, media influence is so powerful. And we talked about what's going on currently in the world with the virus. I mean, media has played a massive influence in this.
Yeah.
And it's the same for mental health. It's the same for any news that they have. Anything worth talking about or worth trending to get eyeballs, to get the trend, and the things about be kind, or those are the things that media like to jump on.
What is it? The memes I've seen recently, it's like, be kind last month, everything's going to shit this month.
Yes.
It's but again, like you said, it's all media led. It's all very much the stories that we're seeing and we choose to believe or choose not to believe, I guess, right?
Yeah, and it's because we're so easy consuming information nowadays, with our phones, with Google, everything's at the touch of our palm of our hands. I mean, one click and we're there. Whether it's fake news or real news, how do we know? But what we do know is how we feel and what we're thinking about and what action do we take. And that's taking back power into personal power and taking ownership and responsibility of ourselves, right? How we react to things. And there was a case earlier, just this afternoon, where I saw some fellow Asians in America that they were raising awareness about the racism and all that stuff that's going on with the current virus. And that triggered me. I put a post out. It was quite emotional because I've related to the bullying throughout the storyhood, the growing up, but also how it's affecting the community right now, especially when we so need to be united and really taking care and looking out for each other. And like you said, 1 minute be kind, next minute screw each other over. I mean, the truth is what can we control is ourselves.
Very true. However, do you think that there's an ability for people to get to a certain point where they're fully independent of thought, let's put it that way? So they're not being influenced from the media. They're allowing themselves to come to their own answers, because it is so noisy now. We were talking before, and the generation now growing up are just consistently surrounded by different news sources, from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook to the normal news articles. Whereas when we were younger, I remember having to seek out news basically if I wanted to find out what was going on. But do you think we can ever get back to that sort of level?
Inner peace. Yes, absolutely. Inner peace is
how do we get there?
How do we get there? Well, there's a few of premises and things that you need to practice. First is finding out your values, your personal values.
Yeah.
And the next would be going into what we say your unconscious behaviors, your shadow, your dark side. Finding out, like I mentioned earlier, what triggers you, what makes you upset, what makes you angry, what makes you happy. Know all those weakness or touch points or pain points even. And the more you know yourself, goes down to self-awareness, right? Is know thyself. And once you know that, what triggers you and you make peace with it, of course, there's workshops, there's premises, there's things that you need to go through to unveil and unravel all this stuff and reveal it to yourself and talk about it to someone else and really know what's causing all this pain, all this suffering. And the more you master and know all of that, the easier it is to be peaceful within yourself.
What the thing is with, because me and you, like I said, are in the similar worlds. What I often find is if people have never gone through conversations like that with themselves beforehand, they always, one of the first questions, like, where do they start? How do they get from that person that is so head down in the world, everything like that? What is the thing that usually gets them to start looking inwards and looking for answers that you've typically see?
Well, like Tony Robbins says, right? People only change either pain or pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And most people is pain. For Ick, business partner, his one is pleasure. Funny enough.
Yeah.
But for me, it's pain as well. What inspired me to take this route to understand myself was the pain from climbing the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the point where I was at the high end of climbing the corporate ladder, earning a lot of money. Life was good. But I got to the point where I was burning out,
Mm-hmm.
or burnt out even completely, to be honest, for a month. And I just kept thinking to myself, what is it that I value in my life right now? What's important to me?
But what made you ask yourself those questions? Was it things you saw around you, or was it just the fact you were in that burnout phase and it was almost like there was no other questions to ask?
Well, I got to the point where, I reached my goal. My goal was to climb the corporate ladder, right? And I got that. Well, it was, for Chinese people, it's doctors, lawyers, accountants. That was the goal of parents. But for me, the next big thing, other than those three things, was being in an international corporate company. And I got that level. But I reached that level and I got to the point where, what now? I mean, am I going to do this for the next 20, 30 years? Would I be happy? Or am I happy now, to be honest? And I wasn't. I was physically ill. I was working 15, 16 hours a day. And I couldn't spend my money because I had no time to spend the money.
How did that feel when you realized that, this isn't what I want? This isn't what I want to do for the next 20, 30 years?
I got to the point where I was depressed because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and where this life was taking me. And
it's like that weird limbo mode.
Yeah, and it was this deep spiral, right? And I kept thinking, if I left this world now, would I be happy? With what I've done, what I achieved so far. And the answer was no. And once the answer becomes no too many times, right, you need to ask, why are you doing it?
Yeah, what's going to make this a yes?
And it got to the point where I felt suicidal. I was like, well, if there's no importance of my life right now, what is there? And that was the deep conversations I had to have with myself, but also with Ick, because Ick helped me pull out of it, but also see the vision that I had, which was to create Limit Break Lifestyle. It was to create a community of leaders who was inspired, who's fulfilled, and living the life of freedom. And
so how long have you known Ick?
I've known Ick for probably 13, 14 years, I think.
Nice.
Since I was,
For you guys, what was it like going from that friendship to the business partner phase? And how did you know that was going to be a good move?
We didn't. It was...
How do we know anything, right?
Yeah, it was... well, the thing was when I first started my... first job after university was I got into a job where I was working for entrepreneurs. And these two entrepreneurs was teaching me all things digital marketing, sales, systems, processes, business, events management, everything that we know and do right now. I learned that from them in 2.5 years and accelerated in my development. And Ick midway joined the training that they provided, and we were both creating our own stuff. I was doing digital marketing, Ick was doing his relationship stuff. And it just made sense, right? It just made sense that we're both in this space, we're both doing business, why not just and he also had the same vision of creating leaders. Just wasn't at the scale that I had in my vision right now. Right, as years got on, we got more clarity in what we do and who we're serving, but it just felt right. There was a lot of skills that he had that I didn't have.
Yeah,
and I had all the digital transformation, digital leadership, all the systems and processes in place. Whereas he was the connector. He was the guy who was out speaking. He would be doing the selling. He'd be the closing, and the partnership just worked. And we never know, what if it's a good fit, but
it's working.
Yeah, and every training that we go on to, we make sure both of us go together.
Yeah.
So we're not missing knowledge. At least, one's doing better in one area, fine, but we still know what the premise of the training is.
Yeah.
And when we make decisions, it's easier because we understand where he's coming from or where I'm coming from.
When you guys sat down and formulated the Limit Break lifestyle brand, what were like the key areas that were important to you, as you're both so value driven and value based? I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that room.
Transparency.
Yeah.
We know each other's weaknesses. We know each other's strengths. We know both of each other's dark side. So we know what triggers each other. So when we do banter, we know exactly what triggers, what buttons to press. Exactly.
It's one of those things though, because I see a lot of co-founder relationships either work or not work, right? And especially in recent years where people often feel the need to have a co-founder, the need to have that sort of right-hand man. But it's really interesting from you guys that you met on a unbusiness related world, in that sense, and you formed this partnership from that space, and it's working. I know you both, and it is a joy to see you work together. For you, what's next? Where do you guys want to take Limit Break Lifestyle? You mentioned that you had slightly different visions for it, but it'd be interesting to see how you've now formulated it together.
Well, originally we wanted to help everyone. And as you know,
classic.
you and I both know we can't help everyone.
If you help everyone, you help no one.
Yes. But initially it first started out as if we were life coaches. We just wanted to help everyone. We're in all different areas of their lives and break out their limiting beliefs. And that's how it all started.
Yeah.
But when we rooted down to what we were actually creating and working on, was actually intuitive leadership or inner leadership. And it's creating the leader within, is unlocking the high performance, the removing the unconscious behaviors.
Yeah.
Or just knowing what the unconscious behaviors is what, sabotage your success. When you're going for something and you don't get it, you're playing a certain pattern. And when you know what those patterns are, you know exactly what you could do to get out of it. And so this journey of finding what we want to do is taking it into corporate leadership and help more higher performing executives to make better decisions. Because we've seen so many leaders right out there who's making terrible decisions or even making decisions based on their own agenda.
Yeah.
And not for the higher good. And we've seen, amazing leadership this week, right, from the UK government. And that kind of leadership was agenda for everyone. It wasn't agenda just for that group.
Yeah.
And we have seen previously where, they've been making agendas or decisions based on their own agenda, but not for everyone else. But as of this week, everyone was just blown away by the decisions they made for the majority.
The inclusivity.
Right? Yeah, and that was amazing to watch and to see. And we want to make more leaders or help more leaders like that to get to that point where they're making decisions based on everyone's agenda.
Well, this is a really interesting time to, it's almost a great time for you guys to for lead gen, because you can really see what companies are valuing their employees and valuing their customers versus the companies that sort of don't know their values. So they're going into panic mode and they're pulling things out and they're pulling out away. So for you, it's almost like this picking ground potential to be like, oh, I know that this company here, that leader is really struggling to lead because they're focusing on all the wrong things.
Yeah, it's a great time. But, you know, leadership, there is no great time for leadership than every day, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say that leadership is a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. Well, you are a man of routine.
Every day we live in choices. We always make choices based on whether we want to lead or not. You know, it doesn't have to be leading people in companies or corporates. It could be just, you know, being an influence or leadership to your parents. I mean, you know, our parents are probably panicking right now, but in this time, do we panic as well, or do we remain calm and say, you know, just stay home and we'll get everything sorted. We'll take care of everything. You just stay home and be away from all this.
Yeah.
Right. Until there's a vaccine that comes out.
Exactly.
I mean, if we're panicking, then our parents will panic, then everyone else around us will panic, and our partners will panic, our friends will start panicking, and everyone will start panicking. And then everyone goes into panic buying, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's exactly that. For you, what do you think it takes for, on a personal level, to be that leader sort of mentality?
Make a choice on how you react. I mean, we always get, you know, you see on social media easily, right? Everyone's like commenting and they put a post out and someone gets triggered.
Yeah.
And then it goes to this massive ramble. But knowing, you know, what, you don't have to reply to everything, right? You could just ignore it, or you could delete them, or you could block them.
Exactly. For you though, because you are a man, like I mentioned a minute ago, you know, you are a man of routine. How important do you think routine in someone's life is to that leadership mentality?
Well, I believe structure. I mean, routine and structure, they're the same thing, really, is having a certain routine or certain structure you stick to. I say structure because I would say, a support group. Like you both, I know, are in one. Is having a high-level support group that's on your level, and they're doing things that you're doing, maybe better, but also they're also providing you different strategies and different perspectives. I mean, we don't know everything, and when we claim to know everything, we know nothing.
Exactly.
So
you want people to question you at all times.
Yes, absolutely.
Keeps you on your toes.
And I would say routine is key, you know, to what we're creating every day. I mean, we could be going out doing things in whether I think it's just knowing what you're focusing on right now. I mean, for me, it's always working to connect with leaders.
Yeah.
Which leader am I connecting with today? How can I influence or inspire or, you know, have a discussion with them or conversation that would inspire to them to think differently or do something different. And following the routine is just the structure. It's just having things that you're creating each time. Each hour could be different. But, you know, with so many things on the go as founders, what we do, right? We always have different projects. We're working with different people. We need to allocate time for certain tasks. And make sure we stick to them. I mean, that's discipline and creation.
And is that structure that you have in your life, does that allow you to, in the easiest way said, like sleep well at night, knowing that you've had a successful day?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you once have a time where you didn't have structure, or is this something that you've always sort of naturally had?
No, I never had. It was something I created within the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years. Of understanding what structure is. And once you know what the premise of structure is, as how you use it properly. And used to, I would get up when I was working from home. I'd get up at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe and then have something to eat, and then hit the gym. And by the time I actually settle down and do some work, I'm probably like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And then you're like, oh, it's clocking off time.
And then and then everyone's like, oh, and your friends come home from 5, 6 o'clock, and you're like, oh, let's go out and hang out with them, and you kind of do nothing.
It's easy being busy, right? Because even back then, I bet you thought, oh my God, I've done so much today.
Yes, but and obviously you find out that that's not true.
Yeah. Well, again, it comes back to that, the story you told yourself back then. You made yourself believe it, and then it was questioned, and then you realized it wasn't true. And now the story that you've created is one that is inspiring people, which is fantastic. I've definitely seen a shift from your like online presence in the last probably 12 to 18 months of truly like stepping it up, which is great to see, because you're like, for me, it was like you're owning your space more, which is great. And like recently, you've just had your own little mini rebrand for your own personal. What do we call it? Like for mini rebrand for your own personal brand.
I would say a personal brand. It's more like establishing my personal brand. I mean, I've been trying to look for my personal brand for a while.
Yeah.
And it just finally came to me, right? Having a joint brand for Limit Break Lifestyle is great. But there was also a personal brand underneath me. And everyone was like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to work with Gina, the designer, to come up with my personal brand, and to find...
She pulled it out of you.
Yeah, and she was like, what does your leadership stand for? Like, what makes you different from everyone else? And for me, it came from, I have a lot of leadership styles from wolf packs. And for anyone that haven't seen my logo, you'll probably get seen when you go on my website or something. And it was a mixture of the wolf and the gorilla. And the wolf is leading from the back. I'm a leader that supports everyone from the back, which is what I do in digital transformation. I do all the implementation, the systems, the automations. I create all the support structure for the person in front, which is IC, to lead in the front. But also the community is in front as well. And it supports the community and pulls through. And if required, I'm happy to step at the front and face the danger, like the alpha does.
Yeah.
But the alpha also leads from the back as well. Then there's the attitude of the gorilla, which is strong and willing to fight. And there's a lot of grit in gorillas. And I guess that's what comes out in my personal brand. When people know or see me, they're like, oh, well, Jono, you're so big built or quite big. But it's because I provide protection for my community, for my friends, from people I work with or people I'm close with. Is I provide that support and just the calm groundedness to be in front and lead. I'm willing to make the decisions. I'm willing to,
which is why the brand aligns with you so much.
Yeah, and it just really came across.
Yeah, she did. I mean, Gina did a fantastic job as always. She's great. I love seeing her little designs that she pops out, and I like seeing the previews that she does for people's brands. I'm like, oh, what's that going to become?
Yeah,
but she seems to be a real genius. I haven't worked with her directly myself, but I know lots of people that have.
When you have the chance to get on it.
Yeah. She's on my hit list. So I need to get her on the podcast, actually. So Gina, when you're watching this or listening to it, we need to get you on. Jono, listen, for you, like, final question then, what's coming up for you in 2020? What's happening? What, other than this sort of weird situation we're in now, what have you got planned?
Well, I've recently joined two charity organizations. One is for rough sleepers and homelessness.
Brilliant.
And the other one is a kids play charity. And they inspire kids to learn through play.
Brilliant. Love that.
So they create, they do a lot of scraps. They have a scrap store where they provide a lot of materials for kids, and we create different, scrap packs for kids to create and make things out of. And it helps them learn, it helps them create, and it keeps their creativity on top. And that vision for that charity is creating leaders of the future. And the other one is giving back to the community, who are less fortunate.
Yeah.
And so there's two different sides of
amazing
of the spectrum there. One is homelessness, when people are quite established and made in rough sleeping conditions. And one is creating leaders of the future who's young. They're willing to, they don't know what the world yet, but they will be the new leaders.
Yeah, love that. What made you get involved in those?
For me, it's more, again, it's using my leadership expertise, but also a lot of digital transformation is bringing them up on par with the modern world, because a lot of charities struggle with the budgets and they don't have the expertise that we have access to. And it's always nice just to give back to the community and
massively
and help support the the management and the operations team, the ones that's always on the front line.
Amazing, Jono. I love that you're involved in that. You're just like the proper box ticker. You're just like such a nice guy. You're doing such amazing things in the industry, and now you're like just going, right, what can I do next? Let's get involved in charities. And I love it. So hats off to you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
My final question to you is, and one I ask all my guests, but if you could give 3 tips to founders to help them lead from the back, what would those 3 tips be?
Remain calm would be first. Second is do something you love every day. Whatever that looks like to you. Some people say it could be gaming, some people could be exercising, some people could be reading, some people could be just having conversation with other people, right? Third, I would say is exercise. I can't emphasize exercise enough. I mean, you've probably seen a lot of my posts when I check in every day to say,
check in at the gym, otherwise you don't go.
Yeah, I mean, exercise just makes so much difference in terms of health, mentality, mindset. I mean, it seems very basic, but it makes a huge difference in energy. I mean, the amount of stuff that we have going on as founders, we have so many different projects. We have to look out for different things. We're sorting out finance. We're sorting out staff, management, But exercising just gives you that extra energy to keep going. I mean, we have to keep showing up, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if the leaders, we can't lead from the front, who else is going to lead? So, and if we can't take care of ourselves, how are we going to take care of everyone else?
Yeah, exactly. Jono, as always, it's been a pleasure. I really want to thank you for coming on. If anyone wants to speak to you directly, find out more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can reach me on my website, jonopoon.com. Or if they just search me on Google, I'll come up. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job properly.
I was about to say you're very Googleable, and that's the thing. It's you see some people, you see some marketers and stuff, and you Google them, and they just don't come up, and you're kind of like red flag. But no, you're good. Jono, thank you so much for coming on Founders 365. It's been a pleasure. You've been a saint as always. So thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Steven.
Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. This has been Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty and Jono Poon.
Thank you.